Youorns. Greetings, fellow Watford fans. Omar here, and it's time for the YouOrns 10-minute take on Stoke 1, Watford 0. Watford today were not at the races at all. Stoke deserved to win this game, not because Stoke were so extra special, but because Stoke took their chances and Stoke played more of their brand of football than Watford did of Watford's brand of football. And this really was the big difference in the game. Watford did not execute the system that Val wanted. Watford did not stick to the task, and Watford played like individuals today, reverting back to the Watford of last season and the prior season when players played individually and isolated and without imagination. And that really is the reason, basically, why Watford did not perform up to par and why Stoke deserved to win the game. Stoke had some more spirit and endeavor about them in the first half, but did not get the goal that they would have needed to put themselves in the ascendancy earlier on in the match. Watford played so poorly in the first half, it looked as if we had been tricked the first two games of this championship season. And they did come into the game in the first 5 minutes of the second half. The Watford midfield was sterile today. It was both TDB and Loser who were really disappointing, to say the very least, and that's being kind to both of them. Loser had no leadership at all in this game in the midfield. That midfield had no leadership whatsoever. And Loser was subbed off 10 minutes or so into the second half, while TDB was subbed off at halftime. It was a very poor showing from both players. But that first 5 minutes of the second half gave you a glimpse of Watford's forays. Ken Sema was moved to the left after the injury in the first half to James Morris, and he ended up moving to the left side of left back and then played in an advanced role and had some good cutting runs inside that Stoke box. But that 5 minutes of euphoria, along with Kone coming on, was few and far between. That really was it, because shortly after that, Vigidal, who had been so good for Stoke, and I said that he'd be a danger man. I said that in the Friday Focus. I said it also on the pre-match on this particular YouTube channel. I told you that he would be a danger man for Watford, against Watford for Stoke, and he certainly was. It was one ball over the top for Stoke in the 56th minute or whenever it was in that second half. And that one ball over the top got in behind the Watford defense, and it was Vidal with a really well-taken finish past Danny Batman, who had no chance in the game there. It was a tremendous finish and a worthy goal to win any match, and that's exactly what Stoke did. Watford's play after that was much more about feeding off of scraps and a bitty affair. Never really got to grips with the game, never really had the possession necessary, I think. Even though they maybe outpossessed Stoke in this game, they didn't have the possession that they were allowed to feel comfortable in, and that's why Stoke won this game as well. Stoke didn't let Watford settle, and even though Watford may have had more possession in the first half, Watford never really settled the way they wanted to. You can possess the ball, but you've got to possess the ball the way you want to possess the ball. Stoke made Watford possess the ball the way Stoke wanted them to, and so there was no width at all. Watford did not ever go into a wide position, which is what Val would have liked, but it was not executed well at all. Very little diagonals in this game, very few of them, not enough expansion of the pitch. And when you're not doing well in your midfield, what you want to do is start to expand the pitch, use the width, and put Stoke in uncomfortable positions, force them into positions that they don't want to defend in, and make the pitch bigger. But Watford made the pitch smaller, which is a no-no, especially away from home. And they really did not have any imagination to expand the game. And that meant that Ken Sema was, for the most part, except for parts of the second half, was very much constricted in this game. And Martins, who's usually really dynamic, had some moments, but did not do the things that you expect him to do, pretty much. But it really wasn't Martin's fault. He had the energy and the intensity. It's just the whole team did not seem like they were on the proper team sheet with Val on this one today. And I think, for me, very disappointing performance from Watford. Lacked imagination, as I said. And again, they played like individuals today. And that's a problem that you have to stamp out immediately. Val had worked so hard to get that kind of nonsense out of the club, and now it's crept back in this performance today. So that is a worry. Also a worry, James Morris getting injured. So now another Watford player injured, this time a left back, with Damian Lewis still not ready yet. Excuse me, Jamal Lewis still not ready yet to come into the Watford fold. Tom Ince made his debut, but really it was one to forget. Tom Ince didn't have a foothold in this game, and he's really still trying to get fit for Watford. I think the encouraging thing for Watford, their subs bench today, were Asprilla and Georgie. I thought they both added life and pace and a little bit of devil in this game where it was sorely needed in that second half. In fact, Asprilla had a very good shot he took that was saved well from the Stoke keeper. That was really, I think, the only shot really that Watford had on target. Maybe there might have been another, but that was the one that was well saved in that second half. But the referee, who had an excellent game all around, really blundered in failing to give Watford a penalty. And clearly, as a penalty, a stonewall pen, as Georgie was cut down by ex-Watford man Ben Wilmot. His trailing leg was left out there, and Georgie went down. I mean, it was absolutely a stonewall pen. Referee said no. And that really was the only mistake, big mistake, the only mistake really that the referee made. I thought the referee, other than that, had a very good game, but Watford did not. And Stoke got over the line in the end. And championship games are always about getting over the line. No need to panic yet, I think, from a Watford perspective. After all, it is only match day number 3 in the championship. But one thing to worry about is the goals being very, very non-existent for Watford. In 248 minutes of championship football, they have not scored. The last 248 minutes of championship football, Watford have not scored. Their last goal in the championship was in the first game against Queen's Park Rangers in the 43rd minute. That would be in the first half, and that was Bio, the man coming good to get his account up and running. But since then, no goals by Watford in the championship. That is a concern. That's a long time to go without scoring. And if you look back further overall, the last time Watford scored a goal anywhere in any kind of regulation play was that game against Stevenage. And of course, that was Bio again, back in the 6th minute of that game. So now we're going on almost what, 2 weeks since Watford last scored a goal of any kind in any game. So that's something to worry about there. And that means that the Watford brass, Ben Manga and co, will have to get in there and get a striker. We all know that as Watford supporters. There is Shamar Nicholson out there. There's also the lad Dion, I always forget his last name there, from Bolton, who is another one on the radar for Watford. James Collins was on the bench, by the way, today, the academy striker, but he did not get a look in. And I wonder why that was, because I thought the game needed a bit more youth and a bit more energy and passion. Reece Healy on the bench didn't play, which tells me today, it tells me, and what Val has said about him, is that he's still lacking confidence and psychological confidence too. He's not trusting his body yet, apparently, according to Val. And so that's something that you have to keep your eye on with Reece Healy coming off an ACL injury and coming into the rough and tumble of a very physical championship. That's a concern. And so I don't know if Reece Healy will be on to play any championship games for Watford for the foreseeable future. I think it's very clear that the reason why Healy is even on the squad sheet anyway for these games is just to fill out the squad, because the squad is so thin. Watford need a left back, Watford need a right back, Watford need another defensive midfielder, I think. And certainly, I think maybe even another attacking midfielder. And they certainly need a striker. That's first up on the board. And also a backup goalkeeper, because I do think that there needs to be some competition for Daniel Bachmann for that #1 spot to keep the captain honest. So that is really my assessment of this game. One of the things, again, I want to get back to is the selfishness. Watford was selfish today. They played individually, and James Morris really set the tone for that with his tame shot at the goal, when he really should have passed the ball early on to Facundo Bio. And we know Bios has some struggles in front of goal, but you have to pass that ball to the striker there early on in the match. It's not a game where you're up 2 or 3-0 where you can afford to take that kind of shot. And it was a poor shot from Morris from that left side of the pitch. Really unlike him, normally a lot more unselfish, but today he did not behave accordingly. And as I said, he got injured as well. So look, that wasn't the only error from Watford on a selfish level, but certainly that was the one that really marked down where this Watford match was going to head. And Stoke deserved the win. Vihidal scoring the goal with a beautiful over-the-top shot. It was a ball that came in over the top, and Vidal latched onto it and dispatched it really well past Backman. That was the only goal of the game, and that was in the second half, about 10 or so minutes in, after Watford had started the second half really brightly for a few minutes. But really, Watford never had any continuity today and did not move well off the ball. There was not enough ball movement, or I should say there was not enough off-the-ball movement for Watford players. You didn't see that collective energy, that collective playing for each other the way he did the first two games. Watford players did not run into space, did not provide channels and width for Watford players to pass the ball out to give that pitch and give their play a much more expansive feel. And because you didn't have Watford players running and making runs, just every player, I mean, Bayer made runs, but because you didn't have players on the Watford side at large today running and creating space, you had a very constricted game where everything was played through the middle, and the Stoke players just ate that up. The Stoke midfield just completely controlled that. The Watford midfield, as I said, lacked leadership, lacked innovation, lacked energy, lacked imagination. And because the Watford side did not work for each other today, because they did not play as a team today, this is how you end up with this 1-0 defeat. And not to mention, once again, Stoke deserved to win the game. Fair play to them. Look, it's not the end of the world. It is early. It's the first away game of the championship this season. But what really makes it disappointing is that Watford did not put forth the effort and did not stick to the game plan. That is the thing that you can't afford to do in this league. You're throwing away games, throwing away opportunities to pick up points. And when you don't even employ the game plan and you play individually, you end up doing exactly what we didn't want. A Watford side that didn't give you any passion and intensity and played as if they couldn't care less. That really was especially the effect of a very, very poor Watford first half. This has been the YouOrns 10-minute take.